This is the Odyssey by Homer, translated by Emily Wilson. Book 4, What the Sea God Said. Buckle in, this one will be a long one. They came to Sparta, land of caves and valleys, and drove to Menelaus' house. They found him hosting a wedding feast for many guests to celebrate his children's marriages. In Troy, he had declared that he would give his daughter to Achilles' son, who ruled over the Myrmidons. Now he was sending her with dowry gifts of horse-drawn chariots. The gods had made the marriage come to pass. And he was welcoming a Spartan bride, Elector's daughter, for his well-loved son, strong Megapenthes, mothered by a slave. The god had given Helen no more children. After the beautiful Hermione, image of all Aphrodite in gold, all in gold. Neighbors and family were feasting gladly under the king's high roof. The bard was singing and strumming, and two acrobats were spinning and leading them in dance. Telemachus and Nestor's son stopped by the palace doors and held their horses. Menelaus' guard, Antonius, ran out and saw them there, and then hurried back inside to tell his master. "Your Majesty, there are two men outside, strangers who seem like sons of Zeus. Please tell me, should we take off the harness from our horses, or send them off to find another host?" Flushed, Menelaus shouted angrily, "You used to have some brains. Now you're talking like a silly child. We too were fed by many different hosts before returning home. As we may hope for Zeus to keep us safe in future times, untack their horse, lead them in to dine." So Antonius rushed out from the palace and ordered other slaves to follow him. They freed the sweating horse from their yoke and tied them by the manger, which they filled with emmer that they mixed with bright white barley. They leaned the carriage up against the wall and led their guests inside the godlike house. The boys looked round the palace in amazement. The lofty halls of famous Menelaus shone like dazzling light of sun or moon. When they had satisfied their eyes with staring, they went to take a bath in polished tubs. The slave girls helped them wash and rubbed them down in olive oil, then dressed them in wool cloaks and tunics, then seated them beside the son of Atreus, King Menelaus. A house girl brought a basin made of silver and water in a golden jug. She poured it over their hands to wash, and set a table of polished wood beside them. And a humble slave girl brought bread and many canapes, a lavish spread. The carver carried platters with every kind of meat and set before them cups made of gold. Then ruddy Menelaus welcomed them both and told them, "Help yourselves, enjoy the food. When you have shared our meal, we will begin to ask you who you are. Your fathers must be scepter-bearing kings. The sons of peasants do not look like you." With that, he took the dish of rich roast meat, cut from the back, which was his special meal, and offered it to them. They reached their hands to take the food set out in front of them. After their thirst and hunger had been sated, Telemachus turned round to Nestor's son, ducking his head so no one else could hear. "Pisistratus, friend, do you see how these echoing halls are shining bright with bronze and silver, gold and ivory and amber? It is as full of riches as the palace of Zeus on Mount Olympus. I am struck with awe." When Menelaus heard his words, he spoke to them in turn. His words flew out. "No mortal, my dear boys, can rival Zeus. His halls and home and property are deathless. Some man may match my wealth, or maybe not. I suffered for it. I was lost, adrift, at sea for 8 long years. I trapezed through Cyprus, Phoenicia, Egypt, Ethiopia, Sidon, Arabia, Libya, where lambs are born with horns. Their ewes give birth 3 times a year. The master and his slave have cheese and milk and meat. The flock provides sweet milk year-round. But while I wandered there, accumulating wealth, someone crept in and killed my brother. His own scheming wife betrayed him. I can take no joy in all my wealth. Whoever they may be, your fathers have surely told you how much I have suffered. I lost my lovely home, and I was parted for many years from all my splendid riches. I wish I had stayed there with just 1/3 of all the treasure I have now acquired. If those who died at Troy so far away from Argive pastures were alive and well, I sit here in my palace mourning all who died and often weeping. Sometimes tears bring comfort to my heart, but not for long. Cold grief grows sickening. I miss them all, but one man most. When I remember him, I cannot eat or sleep, since no one labored like him. Odysseus. His destiny was suffering, and mine the endless pain of missing him. We do not even know if he is still alive. He has been gone so long. His faithful wife and old Laertes must grieve for him, and young Telemachus, who was a newborn when he went away. Those words roused in the boy a desperate need to mourn his father. Tears rolled down his face and splashed on the ground. He lifted up his cloak to hide his eyes, but Menelaus noticed and wondered whether he should wait until the boy first spoke about his father or ask. As he was hesitating, Helen emerged from her high-ceilinged, fragrant bedroom like Artemis who carries golden arrows. Adrastes set a special chair for her. Alcippe spread it upon it soft wool blankets, and Philo brought a silver sewing basket given to her by Alcandre, the wife of Polybus, who lived in Thebes, in Egypt, where people have extraordinary wealth. He gave 2 silver tubs to Menelaus, a pair of tripods, and 10 pounds of gold. His wife gave other lovely gifts for Helen. A golden spindle and the silver basket on wheels. The rims were finished off with gold. Philo, her girl, brought out that basket now, packed full of yarn she had already spun. A spindle wound around with purple wool was laid across it. She sat down and put her feet upon a stool and asked her husband, "Do we know who these men are, Menelaus, who have arrived here in our house? Shall I conceal my thoughts or speak? I feel compelled to say the sight of them amazes me. I never saw 2 people so alike as this boy and Telemachus, the son of spirited Odysseus, the child he left behind, a little newborn baby, the day the Greeks marched off to Troy, their minds fixated on the war and violence. They made my face the cause that hounded them." High-colored Menelaus answered, "Wife, I saw the likeness too. Odysseus had hands like those legs, that hair, that head, that glancing gaze. And when I spoke just now about Odysseus and all the things he suffered for my sake, the boy grimaced, and floods of tears were rolling down his cheeks. He raised his purple cloak to hide his eyes." Pisistratus, the son of Nestor, spoke. "King Menelaus, you are right. This is truly his son, just as you say he is. But he is shy and feels he should not speak too boldly in your presence right away. Your voice is like a god's to us. Lord Nestor sent me to guide him here. He longed to see you, to get some news from you, or some advice. A son whose father is away will suffer intensely if he has no man at home to help him. In the absence of his father, Telemachus has no one to protect him." Then Menelaus answered, "So the son of my dear friend, who works so hard for me, has come here to my house? I always thought that I would greet that friend with warmth beyond all other Argives. If Zeus let us sail home with all the speed across the sea, I would have brought him from Ithaca, with all his wealth, his son, and people, and bestowed on him a town in Argos, driving out the natives from somewhere where hereabouts under my rule. We would have constantly spent time together. Nothing would have divided us in love and joy till death's dark cloud surrounded us. But I suppose the god begrudged our friendship and kept that poor unlucky man from home." His words made everyone want to cry. Helen was weeping, as was Menelaus. Pisistratus' eyes were full of tears for irreplaceable Antilochus, killed by the noble son of shining dawn. Mindful of him, he spoke with words like wings. "King Menelaus, when we spoke of you back home in our own halls, my father Nestor always declared you are exceptional for common sense. So listen now to me. I disapprove of crying during dinner. Dawn will soon come. Weep then. There is no harm in mourning when a person dies. It is the only honor we can pay the dead, to cut our hair and drench our cheeks with tears. I had a brother named Antilochus, one of the bravest fighters in the army, a sprinter and a warrior. He died. I never got to meet him or to see him. Perhaps you did?" King Menelaus answered, "My friend, you speak just as wise as a wise man should, like somebody much older than yourself. You show your father's wisdom in your speech. A lineage is easy to discern when Zeus spins out a life of happiness in marriage and in offspring. So he gave good luck to Nestor all his life. He aged at home in comfort, and his sons are wise and skillful spearmen. Yes, we will stop crying and turn our minds to dinner once again. Let them pour water on our hands. At dawn, Telemachus and I can talk at length." At that, Asphalion, the nimble house slave of mighty Menelaus, poured the water over their hands. They helped themselves to food from laden tables. Then the child of Zeus, Helen, decided that she would mix the wine with drugs to take all the pain and rage away, to bring forgetfulness of every evil. Whoever drinks this mixture from the bowl will shed no tears that day, not even if her mother or her father die, nor even if soldiers kill her brother or her darling son with bronze spears before her very eyes. Helen had these powerful magic drugs from Polydamna, wife of Thon from Egypt, where fertile fields produce the most dangerous, the most narcotics, some good, some dangerous. The people there are skillful doctors. They're the healer's people. She mixed the wine and told the slave to pour it, and then she spoke again. Now Menelaus, and you two noble sons of noble men, Zeus gives us good and bad at different times. He has the power. Sit here then, and eat, and I'll entertain you with a story. Enjoy it. It is fitting to the times. I cannot tell of all the challenges steadfast Odysseus has undergone, but I will tell you what that brave man did. At Troy, when the Achaeans were in trouble, he beat himself and bruised his body badly and put a ragged cloak on, like a slave, and then shuffled through the enemy city streets. In his disguise, he seemed a poor old beggar, hardly a man to sail with the Achaeans. He crept through Troy like that, and no one knew him, except for me. I saw through his disguise and questioned him. He was too smart to talk, acting evasive, but I washed and scrubbed him with oil and dressed him, and I swore an oath that I would not reveal him to the Trojans before he had got back to his own camp. He told me all the things the Greeks were planning. On his way back, he used his long bronze swords. On his way back, he used his long bronze swords to slaughter many Trojans, and he brought useful intelligence to tell the Greeks. The Trojan woman keened in grief, but I was glad. By then, I wanted to go home. I wish that Aphrodite had not made me go crazy when she took me from my country and made me leave my daughter and the bed I shared with my fine, handsome, clever husband. And Menelaus said, "Yes, wife, quite right. I've been around the world, and I've met many heroic men, and known their minds. I never saw a man so resolute as that Odysseus. How tough he was, and what impressive fortitude he showed inside the wooden horse. We fighters lurked inside to bring destruction to the Trojans. You came there too. Some spirit who desired to glorify the Trojans urged you on. Godlike Deiphobus was following you. 3 times you went around the hollow belly, touching the hiding place and calling on us Greeks by name. You put on different voices for each man's wife. Then I and Diomedes and good Odysseus inside the horse heard you call out to us, and we too wanted to go out, or to answer from in there. Odysseus prevented us from going. Then all the other sons of the Achaeans were quiet. Anticlus still wished to answer. Odysseus, his hands clamped shut his mouth and saved us all. We held him there like that until Athena led you far away." Weighing those words, Telemachus replied, "But Menelaus, all this makes it worse. My father's carriage cannot save his life, even if he had a heart of iron. So now, show us to bed. We need the comfort of being lulled into a sweet, deep sleep." Then Argive Helen told her girls to spread beds on the porch and pile on them fine rugs of purple and lay blankets over them, woolly covers on the very top. The girls went out with the torches in their hands and made the beds. A slave let out the guests. Telemachus and Nestor's handsome son slept in the front. Menelaus slept far back inside the lofty house. Beside him lay marvelous Helen in her flowing gown. Soon dawn was born, her fingers bright with roses. Gruff Menelaus jumped out of bed, got dressed, and strapped his sharp sword to his shoulder, then tied his sandals on his oiled feet. He went out of his bedroom like a god, approached Telemachus and spoke to him. "What need has brought you here, Telemachus, to Sparta over such expanse of sea? Private or public business? Tell me truly." Telemachus inhaled and then replied, "King Menelaus, son of Atreus, I came in search of news about my father. My house is being eaten up. Our wealth is ruined. My whole home is full of men who mean me harm. My mother's loutish suitors. Each day they kill more sheep, more longhorn cattle. So I am begging you, here on my knees, tell me the dreadful news. If he is dead, perhaps you saw it with your eyes, or heard tales of his travel. You are surely born to suffer in extraordinary ways. Please do not try to sweeten bitter news from pity. Tell me truly if you saw him and how he was. If my heroic father ever helped you at Troy when things were bad, keep that in mind now and tell the truth." Flushed, Menelaus shouted in anger, Damn them! Those cowards want to steal the bed of one whose heart is braver than their own. As when a deer lays down to 2 newborn fawns, still sucklings, in the lair of some strong lion, and goes to look for pasture over slopes and grassy valleys. When the lion comes back to his own bed, he brings down doom on them. So will Odysseus upon those men. O Father Zeus, Athena, and Apollo, I pray he is as strong as when he stood to wrestle Philomelades on Lesbos, and hurled him to the ground, and we all cheered. So may Odysseus attack the suitors. May all their lives be brief, their weddings cursed. As for your questions, I will not deceive you. I will not hide a single word I heard from that old sea god Proteus. Although I longed to come back home, away from Egypt, the gods prevented me, since I always had failed to perfect hecatombs. They always desire obedience. There is an island out in the sea beside the coast of Egypt named Pharos. If a clear wind blows your ship, it takes all day to travel to that island. Its harbor has good anchorage, and their men draw dark water up, then launch off to sea. But I was held for 20 days by gods. No one's appeared to guide my ships across the waters back. All our supplies would have been gone, and all our hope. But then a goddess, Eidothea, pitied me, the child of Proteus, the old sea god. She met me pacing sadly all alone. My men were off around the island, fishing with hooks as usual. Hunger pinched their bellies. She stood beside me, and she spoke to me. Stranger, are you so foolish that you choose to give up and take pleasure in your pain? There is no end in sight. You have been stuck here on this island for so long. Your men grow weak at heart. I answered her and said, whoever you may be, for sure a goddess. I tell you I am trapped against my will. I must have sinned against the deathless gods who live in heaven. Please explain which spirit is blocking me from going home across the teeming sea. Gods must know everything. That shining goddess answered me at once. Stranger, I will be frank with you. A deathless old sea god haunts this place, named Proteus of Egypt, who can speak infallibly. He knows the depths of the seas and serves Poseidon. They say he is the one who fathered me. If you can somehow lie in wait and catch him, he will explain how you can get back home, plotting your path where fish leap through the waters. And if you wish it, Prince, he will explain what happened in your home, both good and bad, while you were gone here on this long, painful journey. Those were her words. I answered, tell me, please, how I can trap this ancient god so he will not see me too soon and get away. It is not easy for a man to catch a god. The goddess answered me at once. Stranger, I will instruct you thoroughly. When the sun hits the midpoint of the sky, the old god bobs above the salty water. The breath of Zephyr hides him in dark shade. He goes to take his nap inside the caves. Around him the clustering seals, the daughters of the lovely Lady Brine. The breath smells sour from gray seawater, pungent salty depths. Select the 3 best men you have on board, and when dawn breaks, I will take all of you down to shore and set you in a line. Let me explain the old god tricks. He will first count the seals and walk around among them. When he has counted them and checked them all, he lies down in the middle, like a shepherd among his flock of sheep. When you observe him sleeping, gather all your force and strength and hold him there. Despite his desperate struggles in trying to escape, he will change shape to every animal on earth, and then water and holy fire. You must hold fast, unshaken, and press harder. Keep him down. At last you will assume again the form in which he went to sleep, and he will speak and question you. Then, warrior, release your forceful hold on that old god and ask him which god is angry with you, and the way to cross the fish-filled waters and go home. With that she sank beneath the deep-sea waves. I went down to the ships upon the sand. My heart was surging in me as I walked, arriving at the ships and then at the shore. We made our meal. Then came immortal night. We went to sleep beside the water's edge. When dawn appeared, her fingers bright with flowers, I walked beside the spreading sea, along the dunes, and prayed intensely to the gods. Then I chose out my 3 most trusted men. The goddess dove down deep inside the sea and brought out 4 seal skins from underwater. New flayed, to help her plot against her father. She scooped out hiding places in the sand and sat to wait. We came right up to her. She laid us in a row and put a skin on each. It would have been a dismal hideout, stinking of salt-bread seals who would lie down to rest beside a creature from the sea. But she brought us sweet ambrosia to save us. She very kindly put it in our nostrils to take away the stench of seal. We waited all morning, apprehensively. Then out of the sea there rose a pod of seals. They lay along the shore. At noon the god emerged above the waves. He went among his fatted shields and counted out their number. He counted us among the first of them, suspecting nothing. Then he lay down too. With a great shout we pounced on him and grabbed him. The old god still remembered all his tricks, and first became a lion with a mane, then snake, then leopard, then a mighty boar, then flowing water, then a leafy tree. But we kept holding on. Our hearts stood firm. At last that ancient sorcerer grew tired. Then he asked me, "Son of Atreus, what god devised this plan with you and taught you to lurk and capture me against my will? What do you want from me?" And I replied, "Old god, why do you want to throw me off? You know I've been trapped here on this island far too long. With no way out, my heart grows faint, so tell me, gods know everything. What spirit stops my journey, and how can I get home with the watery shoals of fish?" At once he answered me and told me this: "You should have given Zeus and other gods fine offerings, to speed your journey home across the wide dark sea. It is your fate not to go home or see the ones you love until you go again to Egypt's rivered water by Zeus and kill 100 cows, to please the deathless gods who live in heaven. Then they will let you travel where you wish. I feel heartbroken that I had to cross the misty sea and go again to Egypt, a long and bitter journey." But I answered, "Sir, I will do exactly as you say. But come now, tell me this, and tell me truly. Did all the Greeks sail safely home by ship, whom Nestor and myself left there in Troy? Did any meet a dreadful death at sea on his own ship or in familiar arms after the war wound up?" When I said this, at once he answered me and said these words: "O son of Atreus, why ask me this? You have no need to know or learn my mind. When I have told you will not be long able to hold back tears. So many men were killed and many left behind at Troy. Just two of all the bronze-clad captains died while traveling back home. One more perhaps may be alive, trapped somewhere out at sea. Ajax was drowned, his ships were sunk. Poseidon first drove him to the rocks of Gyrae, then rescued him from the sea. He would have lived despite Aeneas' hatred, but he made a crazy boast that he survived the waves against the wishes of the gods. Poseidon heard his rash words. At once he seized his trident in mighty hands and hit the Gyran rock. One half remained, the other half, on which Ajax sat as he boasted, cracked right off and fell into the sea and carried him deep down. The boundless waves washed over him. He drank the salty brine and died. But Agamemnon survived. The goddess Hera saved his fleet. When he had almost reached the craggy mountains of Malea, a gust of wind took hold and bore him over waves where fish were jumping, across the rumbling depths where all farms are finished, where Thyestes used to live, and now his son Axis. After that, the route was clear. The gods made all winds fair, and joyfully he stepped foot in his country and touched and kissed the earth of his dear home. He wept hot floods of tears from happiness, but from the lookout post the watchman saw him, scheming as this. I heard it's Aegisthus, but I don't know. I'm not going to do that. Scheming as this paid that man 2 talents, gold to watch all year. So Agamemnon cannot slip past unseen or summon up his will to fight. The spy rushed off to tell the king. Axis formed a plan at once. He chose the 20 best men in the land to lurk in ambush, and he told the house slaves to cook a feast. He rode out on his carriage and summoned Agamemnon, who suspected nothing. Axis killed him over dinner, just as a person kills an ox at manger. All the men who came with him were killed, and all this oaths of Axis all were killed. His story broke my heart, and I sat down upon the sand and wept. I did not want to go on living or to see the sun. I thrashed around and wailed. When I was done, the old sea god spoke words of truth to me. "Now, son of Atreus, your endless weeping has gone on long enough. It does no good. Quickly go home. You may still find Axis alive, or else Odysseus may have come and killed him. You can join his funeral." Those words made me a man again. My heart was warmed inside, despite my grief. My words took wings. I said, "I know now of those 2, but name the third who may still be alive, trapped somewhere in the wide expanse of sea, or may be dead." I know the news may hurt, but I still want to hear it. And he answered, "It is Laertes' son, the Ithacan. I saw him crying, shedding floods of tears upon Calypso's islands in her chambers. She traps him there. He cannot go back home. He has no boats with oars or crew to row him across the seas brought back to his own land. But Menelaus, it is not your fate to die in Argos. Gods will carry you off to the world's end, to Elysium. Those fields are ruled by tawny Rhadamanthus, and life is there easiest for humans. There is no heavy storms or rain, but ocean always sends up gentle breezes of zephyr to refresh the people there. You gain these blessings as the son-in-law of Zeus through Helen." Then the old god sank beneath the waves, and I went back to my ships and godlike men, and as I walked, my mind swirled with my many thoughts. Beside the fleet we cooked and ate our meal. Then holy light came down. We slept beside the surging water. When early dawn appeared and touched the sky with blossom, first we launched the balanced ships into the salty sea, put up the mast and fixed the sails, and then the men embarked and sat in benches neatly in their lines. And then at once they struck the sea with oars. We soon reached Egypt's holy rain-fed river. We docked the ships and sacrificed the oxen. When I had quenched the anger of the gods, I built a mound to honor Agamemnon for his immortal fame. The gods at last gave me a fair wind and sent me quickly home. Come now, stay with me here in my palace until 11 days or 12 have passed. Then I'll send you off with precious gifts, 3 horses and a gleaming chariot. Also a lovely cup so you can pour gifts to the gods and always think of me." Then tactfully, Telemachus replied, "Please do not keep me here so long, my lord. Indeed, I would be glad to stay a year. I would not even miss my home or parents. I get such pleasure listening to you, but my poor friends are surely tired of waiting at Pylos. You have made me stay too long, and for a gift, please only give me treasure. You keep your lovely horses here. I cannot transport them all the way to Ithaca. You rule those open meadows, rich in clover, white barley and wide rows, and wheat and grass. In Ithaca there are no fields or racetracks, though it is only fit for goats. We love it, more than horse pasture. Islands out at sea have no good grazing, ours the least of all." The Menelaus smiled and clasped his hand, and spoke to him in his loud, booming voice. "My boy, your words are proof of your good blood. I will give different gifts, just as you ask. I will give you the finest piece of treasure of all the hoard I have piled up at home. A finely crafted bowl of purest silver, with gold around the rim. Hephaestus made it, and Phaedimus, the king of Sidon, gave it to me when I was visiting his house as I was traveling home. You can have that." Such was their conversation. Then the guests entered the palace, bringing lamb and wine that gives one confidence. The girls all dressed in pretty scarves brought bread for them. So went the feasting in the house of Menelaus. Meanwhile, outside Odysseus' house, the suitors were arrogant as usual, enjoying throwing discuses and spears out on the playing field. The 2 chief suitors were sitting there, Antinous and godlike Eurymachus. Just then, Noemon, son of Phronius, approached and asked a question. "So, do we know Antinous or not? Whether Telemachus is coming back from sandy Pylos? He left with my ship. I need it to cross over to the fields of Elis, where I have 12 mares with mules suckling their teats and not yet broken in. I want to take and train one." They were all astonished, since they had not thought the boy was gone to Pylos, but was somewhere near, out with the sheep or pigs. Antinous said, "Tell me the truth. When did he go? And who went with him? Did he choose some Ithacans, or slaves and laborers? It could be either. And tell me also, did he steal the ship from you by force, or did you give it to him freely because he asked?" Noemon, son of Phronius, replied, "I gave it freely. What could I do when someone so upset was asking me? A noble boy like that? It would have been ungracious to refuse. The young men who were with him were high class, the best in town except ourselves. I saw a Mentor embark as captain, or perhaps not Mentor, but a god who looked like him. This puzzles me. That yesterday dawn I saw a great Mentor here, though he had gone to Pylos in the ship." With that, Noemon departed for his father's house. Those leaders were furious. At once they made the suitors stop playing games and sit. Antinous spoke up with eyes bright as fire, his mind darkened with anger. "Damn, that stuck-up boy succeeded in his stupid trip. We thought he would not manage it. Telemachus has launched a ship and picked an ideal crew despite us all. This is the start of worse. May Zeus destroy his strength before he reaches manhood. Give me a ship and 20 men, so I may watch and catch him in the strait, in between Ithaca and craggy Same. A sad end to this journey for his father. All of them praised his words, endorsed his plan, and went inside Odysseus' palace. Penelope was soon aware of all the suitors' secret plots. The houseboy Medon told her since he had been outside the courtyard and he had heard the plans they were devising. He rushed to tell her. As he stepped inside across the threshold, she came up and asked him, "Well, boy, why have those lordly suitors sent you? To tell godlike Odysseus' girls to stop their work and make a feast for them? I hope this is their final meal. I hope they never gather elsewhere to go courting. You suitors who have come crowding here are wasting Telemachus' wealth. When you were younger, you never paid attention to your fathers, who told you of Odysseus' greatness. He never spoke or acted without justice among the people. Lords are mostly biased. They favor one person and hate another, but he did not. He did no wrong at all. Now your wicked deeds and plans are clear. No gratitude for favors from the past." The knowledgeable Medon answered her, "My queen, I wish this were the worst of it. Now they are plotting even greater ruin. May Zeus ensure it never comes to pass. The suitors want to kill Telemachus with sharp bronze swords on his journey home. He went to sandy Pylos and to Sparta for word about his father." At the news, her legs grew weak. Her heart sank. She was struck dumb for a time. Her voice blocked as her eyes filled up with tears. At last she answered him, "But why did my son go away? There was no need to go on those swift ships that galloped like horses over miles of salty water. Did he intend to lose his name as well and be unknown?" Then Medon answered, "Perhaps some god or his own heart nudged him to go to Pylos to find out about his father, if he will come back home or if he has already met his fate." With that he left her. Grief wrapped around her, eating at her heart. The house was full of chairs, but she could not bear to sit upright. In her bedroom doorway, collapsing on the floor, she wept and cried. Around her, all her women, young and old, were whimpering. Voice thick with tears, she sobbed, "Friends, listen. Zeus has cursed me more than all the women of my family. Already I lost my noble lion-hearted husband, most talented and brave of all the Greeks, whose fame is spread throughout Greece. Now the winds have taken my dear son, and no one told me that he was setting out. Shame on you all. You knew that he was leaving in that ship. Not one of you came here to wake me up. If only I had known about his journey, he would have stayed, no matter how he wanted to leave, or else have left me dead right there. Now called old Dolius, my gardener, the slave who cares for all my trees. My father gave him to me when I came here. Tell him to hurry off and sit beside Laertes and tell him everything. He may decide to go in tears to plead with those who want to kill a god like Odysseus' son, his grandson." Then the loyal Eucleus said, "Lady, sweetheart, even if you take a sword and kill me, I will tell the truth. I knew all this. I gave him what he asked for, bread and sweet wine. He made me swear an oath not to inform you till 12 days had passed, or till you had heard about it, and you missed him, so that you would not cry and spoil your beauty. Now have a bath, get changed into clean clothes, go with your slave girls upstairs to your room, pray to Athena, child of Zeus the king. She may save him from death, and do not bother poor old Laertes. He has pain enough. I do not think the blessed gods despise this family. I trust that there will always be one to rule this house in rich estate." This soothed Penelope. She dried her tears and took her bath and got dressed in clean clothes, then went upstairs to her bedroom with her girls. She put some barley on a tree and prayed. "Hear me, Athena, tireless child of Zeus. If my quick-minded husband ever gave you fat thighs or beef or lamb, here in our halls, remember now and save the son I love. Protect him from the abuses of those suitors." She wailed loud. The goddess heard her prayer. The suitors made a racket that resounded all through the palace shadows. They were boasting, "This queen whom all of us have come here courting is ready now to marry one of us, and does not even know her son will die." They spoke not knowing how things really stood. Antinous declared to them, "My lords, you have to stop this bragging. Quiet down, or those inside will hear it. Now get up in silence. We must go and follow through the plan we all agreed on in our hearts." With that, he picked the 20 strongest men. They went down to the seashore first of all. They launched the swift black ship in deep salt water, set up the masts and raised the sails, and fit the oars in proper order in the straps of leather, and spread out the bright white sails. With confidence, their slaves dealt out the weapons. They moored up high the stream and disembarked. They ate there while they waited for the evening.
Penelope lay upstairs in her bedroom, refusing food and drink, consuming nothing. She wondered if her fine son would escape from death or be brought down by those proud suitors. Her mind was like a lion caught by humans, terrified as they throng and circle round him, trying to trap him. So sweet drowsiness subdued her, and she slept, her limbs relaxed. Athena, bright-eyed goddess, had a plan. She made a phantom looking like a woman, Iphthamine, child of great Icarius, the wife of Menelaus, who lived in Phaerae. She sent it to Odysseus' house to make Penelope feel less distressed and stop her tears of grief. It traveled through the lashes thong, and in her bedroom stood above her head and asked Penelope, "Are you asleep, and are you still upset? The gods who live at ease have no desire for you to weep or worry. Know your son is coming home. He has not wronged the gods." Intelligent Penelope, still sleeping sweetly inside the gates of dream, replied, "Sister, why have you come? Your house is far, and you have never visited before. You tell me to stop grieving and not feel the many pangs that prickle at my heart. But long ago I lost my lion-hearted husband, a man more talented than any, famous throughout all Greece. Now my dear son has sailed off in his ship, though he knows nothing of hardship in the world. He is a child. I worry for him more than for his father. I shudder. I am scared of what may happen at sea or in the country that he went to. He has so many enemies. They plan to murder him before he reaches home." The misty phantom answered her, "Have courage. Let not your heart be troubled or afraid. He is a goddess as his guide, Athena, a helper many men have prayed to have. She has great power, pitying your grief. She sent me here to tell you all of this." Careful Penelope replied, "If you were actually a god with news from gods, tell me about my husband, too. Poor man, tell me if he is alive and sees the sun, or dead and already in the house of Hades." The spirit said, "I cannot tell you whether he is alive or dead. It is not good to speak of things intangible as wind." With that, the phantom floated through the air into the breeze, and then Penelope woke up from sleep, and she was glad at heart because she dreamed so clearly in the night. The suitors got on board and sailed across the water, set on murdering the boy. There's a rocky island out at sea, in between Ithaca and craggy Same, called Asteris, quite small, with a harbor to shelter ships, and there they lurked in ambush.
I kind of promised that I would summarize this chapter, so in summary, oh man, how do I summarize this? So Telemachus goes to Menelaus' house, and at first they're like, we don't know these people, but Menelaus is like, I had been through some stuff, and my friends who let me stay up at their house really got me through it. Let this kid in. And Menelaus tells his story of how he tricked the god Proteus into telling who he had pissed off. Telemachus hears more about his father from Helen. The suitors find out that Telemachus has gone to Sparta. And this worries Penelope, and Penelope prays, and Athena answers. And that's basically it. Okay, bye.